Good night, everyone.
Hi, everybody.
Good evening, everyone. How is everyone doing this fine evening?
Hey, doing great.
Doing great.
Awesome sauce.
We were just having some hilarious green room discussions about famous Mythbusters and comedians.
Yep.
Yes.
And we're not, just to make it clear, we were not talking about James Randi.
Right.
We were talking about the Mythbusters.
The Mythbusters, yes.
The Mythbusters. Not to be confused with Mythbusters, because we don't want to get in like a real Ghostbusters situation. But
right. So the real Ghostbusters was, in fact, the Ghostbuster movies, right?
Yes, because I can't remember the name of the production company, but basically, no. Filmation, the same people that did like He-Man, the He-Man cartoon, and some other junk, where everything is animated on the 12s.
Yeah,
I think like their live action division actually had made a Goofy show that was like a live action thing that was like, these people that were to catch ghosts and stuff, and it's called Ghostbusters. And then that movie came out, which had a bunch of different names, but they worked it out where they could call it Ghostbusters. They just dumped a bunch of money on these other folks,
right?
And then it became like a huge success, and they were like, oh well, we still own the name for this, so let's go ahead and we'll just make a show. And so they made a show, and it was just a little silly thing with like there's a gorilla and there's like two guys.
I remember watching it and being very confused as a child.
Yeah, the gorilla's name is Tracy. And I know that show has like its own following, and it had like a toy line and all kinds of stuff, and people seem to look at it much more fondly than they do the old television series. But then you had Columbia Pictures and the real Ghostbusters, and which is also a very cheaply animated show. If don't watch it now, you'll just be disappointed. But the any sort of scene where they're driving around, there's never any other cars, there's never any other people there. It's a very utilitarian, cheap show.
And if memory serves, because I remember having an Egon action figure from the cartoon, his hair is blonde for some reason.
Yeah, well, they aren't the people from the movie. And there's actually even a episode where they make the point that the movie was just a retelling of their adventures, not the other way around.
Right.
Yeah. And they have like a clip. They have a clip of the beginning of the movie in the episode, but it's since that show is animated on the 2s, because animation 24 frames a second, so it's like one frame, click. The intro, like the opening little thing of showing the Ghostbusters name and all that type of stuff, where it's Columbia University and all that, is also 12 frames a second. It's super weird looking. And I remember picking up on that as a kid. I'm like, why does this look so weird? And it was because it's animated on the 2s.
That's funny.
Yep.
So, who do we have here with us this evening? Looks like we have...
I got another 20 minutes of Ghostbusters material, if that's what you want.
Well, let's be honest. It can't be any worse than the last couple of sequels.
That's better.
I've not seen any of them.
You know what? My hot take on them is I went in expecting them to be terrible, and they were mediocre. So I was okay with it.
I will say that I saw Ghostbusters, the original one, in the theater as a kid. I saw Ghostbusters 2 on home video, and I think I might have saw it on television, and then finally got to see it like all in one go, and I was really disappointed by it, because I'm like, even as a kid, I was like, this is just kind of a retelling of the first movie. It's fine. They do that a lot in those type of things. But in 2016, the Paul Feig Ghostbusters movie.
Yeah.
Like my son, who had grown up then watching Ghostbusters and thinking that was really neat, and watching a little bit of the cartoon and all that type of stuff. I took him to go see the Paul Feig movie, and he was like, some of the humor in it was like more than it was PG-13.
Yeah.
But he was young and he really liked it. He thought it was like, he felt okay. And his feedback on it was, I liked everything except for when they fought ghosts.
Okay.
And I would agree with that assessment too.
Yeah.
That's the end of the movie is the weakest part, but the rest of it was pretty okay. I thought it was funny. I like all the people in it.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I enjoyed it.
And I haven't seen any of the gritty Stranger Things looking Ghostbuster things. I've not seen
They're good. I think in my mind, have you seen the last Jurassic Park?
No.
Where they brought all the original cast back?
Nope. I didn't see any
Okay.
I didn't see any of the
when they
Chris
did that,
Pratt ones.
It was
no.
literally they I don't know what they did on set. I don't know why the script was written the way, but it was almost like they were like, oh, last minute, let's just horn in all these original characters and not really have an explanation or a real good story for them to portray. It was just a really terrible script. They kind of did the same thing when they brought back the original Ghostbusters for the second movie.
Oh yeah.
It felt like it was a bit of a stretch. I'm like, okay, they show up last minute, kind of save the day.
Yeah.
Like, I felt like there should have been more. I don't know.
They should have earned whatever that thing was.
Yeah, and there should have been more story happening outside of what's happening in this town to show kind of where those other people are, besides just a phone call to the magic shop. Right?
Oh, is it like Ray owns an occult store still? Because that's established in
100%.
Too.
But it just seems like, oh my god, the world's ending.
Freak Dan Aykroyd is.
I can't say anything bad about him because he bottles his vodka in.
Oh no, I'm sure. No. I love Dan Aykroyd. I love his crazy brain, but he is a weird ass freak, and that.
Well,
is just,
what's the movie with the hot dog?
His movie with the hot dog,
where the guy's eating the hot dog and it's disgusting.
Oh, Nothing But Trouble.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I love that movie. I've watched that a million times.
Have you ever seen that, Joe?
I am also here.
All you got to do is throw in, Joe. You can tell us about your favorite Dan Aykroyd movie.
Yeah. What's your favorite Dan Aykroyd movie?
He's going to say Exit to Eden.
Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters.
Well, there you go.
Okay. Have you seen any other Dan Aykroyd films?
Probably, but none that I remember.
It's Neighbors, or what is that awful like movie that was supposed to be the John Belushi thing? I think Dan Aykroyd's in that. Anyway. Neighbors.
JC asks an actual technical question, and the answer is yes.
Yeah, if it's a 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi thing you're doing.
Also, if you strip the outer casing of your microwave, it will definitely affect it.
Don't stand in front of the hole.
Why is this chocolate bar melting?
That's good advice for lots of things, but
yeah. So yeah, it was just a weird movie. Like, I enjoyed it, but it was just odd. The hot dog.
Nothing But Trouble.
Really, the hot dog scene really just I was eating while I was watching it, which is probably not the best thing to do.
Yeah, not smart.
Yeah. So I wasn't.
I saw it in the theater of all things.
Okay.
So
there's a scratch there. Okay.
But that movie has an amazing history, and people should go read about it. Literally, like, just Dan Aykroyd was like had a whole team of people to make that movie, and then it just slowly got whittled down where he was like starring in it under heavy makeup in multiple roles. Was like the producer, director, script supervisor, the writer.
His Mel Brooks.
Yeah, he was literally doing everything, and like the movie is just like a masterwork in like props and building weird environments and stuff. Because
the visual effects are pretty on point.
Oh, it's all but I think it's all like pre-digital effffects, man.
Oh,
it's
100%.
all it's
all like
it's all real. Everything you see
motion,
was like something they had to go get. I don't even remember. There's some miniature work in it.
Yeah, maybe that's one thing. Joe,
what's the show about again?
It's about Chevy Chase is a banker.
Yeah.
And
no, the show.
This show
is whatever we make it about.
Yeah,
the boss is gone, so
yeah, we're talking shop.
yeah.
I mean,
Great
I'm in the
Outdoors.
garage, you're in the
Yeah.
basements.
Great Outdoors is really good. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I like I started watching the new Monkey movie. Oh God, it's a Stephen King short story. Not the Monkey Paw. What the hell is it called?
Monkey
It's
Shine.
Garth's picture. It's one of those like the symbol monkeys.
Yeah.
I think it's just called The Monkey. Anyway, I started watching it. It's got pretty good. I've only watched about 5 minutes of it. The first 5 minutes, crazy cool visual effects. Like, cool. And I was eating at the time, so I had to stop watching it.
When you said the monkey show, the monkey movie or the monkey show, I'm like the something of the apes.
You destroyed it. You destroyed it all.
The monkey.
I think it's just called The Monkey.
I think so too.
Yeah. I started watching it.
Yeah, I don't know. I will say that the I remember this here. Okay, because there's a lawsuit that's kind of or something that's involved with this too, where it's like the little because there's a Mystery Science Theater 3000 did it best, but there was like a bunch of failed pilots for TV that got rolled into like a weird like movie loaf where it's chunks of other movies
really Twilight Zone
that are
movie loaf.
Yeah, it's kind of an anthology. Like it was going to be an anthology series pilot that never got picked up.
Okay,
but yeah, there's a thing. I think it's called like The Gift or The Devil's Gift or something.
Okay.
And it's basically the plot for that Monkey Shines like Stephen King thing, but like way before that. So
oh yeah, it is The Devil's Gift, and it has a monkey in it.
Yeah, but it's the
but it says it's based on Stephen King's work.
I think because there was a lawsuit or something, or they came out maybe around the same time, but somebody had better lawyers.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that anything is a copy of anything else, because let's be honest, The Simpsons did it.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to the same well
for
creative stuff. So like this is a great segue into something that's got to do with what the idea of the show is.
Sure.
There's this little company called Microsoft that bought this software development house called Bungie.
Right.
And Bungie employs artists and programmers and big thinkers and all kinds of people to make products for them and things like that. But one of the things they make is called Halo. And Halo is inspired by this little Mac game series called Marathon. Well, they've got a new product a new game that's going to come out here shortly. And they released a bunch of footage from it recently. And wouldn't you guess that there is a graphic artist who pointed out, wait a minute, there is a lot of things that look very similar to my art in this game. So if you've not read about it, you should go read about it. It's
now I assume you're talking about the new Marathon game that's coming out.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of stuff in it. And I'm certainly not saying that anything is directly lifted or anything. It has a very unique art style, and that art style is called Neo Tokyo. So if you've ever played Wipeout on the PlayStation, if you've ever seen Akira, if you've ever watched any Neo Tokyo anime or anything like that, you definitely know what the inspiration for the
Ghost
thing
in
was.
the Shell.
Yeah.
So it's like Ghost in the Shell, excellent. But then you look at this artwork and you're like, yeah, I can see why they would use things that are very similar to that. But the problem is this. This artist has a very like a little block where it's like it looks like a bunch of like kind of like kids like blocks, alphabet blocks, but they just have icons on them. One is very obviously their logo just kind of turned to 90 degrees.
Ooh.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, I can kind of see that the style.
It's
exactly the same.
Do you think it was done purposely, or was it a AI run amok?
And I don't know. I wasn't there.
Okay.
But I know that on that project, I say I know. I had read that people were saying that there were some people that were taken off that project or something like that, or they had some sort of like development situation, and this might be a holdover from somebody they had to let go.
Interesting.
So,
I'll also point out that apparently it is not going to run on Mac,
no,
which is hilarious for a marathon game to not run on Mac.
Consoles. I think it's consoles.
Yeah, it's Xbox, whatever it is now, One Z X, whatever. I don't know. Whatever the modern Xbox is.
Mm-hmm.
Y-Box.
Actually, sorry, I know what it's called. It's called the Copilot Xbox One.
Yeah, Pepsi presents Copilot on Xbox S1.
Featuring Office 365.
Yes, Teams for Teams.
For Teams.
Yeah, that's the new thing. It's getting everything's like for Teams. Like, what's the deal?
I think what happened is they got a lot of German-speaking people into Microsoft, and so instead of making bespoke products, now they just kind of jam all the products together as one long, untruncated product.
Yeah. Yes.
Thunderkugel Falkenberg.
Exactly.
It's crazy because it's just like, and some of the stuff that like with the Teams integration doesn't really make any sense. No. It's like Sibian for Teams.
Yeah. Why?
Yeah.
Who asked for that?
I mean, well, I don't know. I don't know what type of meetings you're having, but those aren't the types of meetings I'm having.
Yeah. What and just like Copilot shows up in everything now. Now, in fairness, I use Copilot. I've used it. It's probably the most AI that I've actually used. But it just shows up in everything now. Like you can't move a mouse in Microsoft. Like right now, there's a Copilot icon that I'm pretty sure I deleted already, and now it's back in my taskbar.
There are some like unbloat utilities for 11 and stuff. You can strip all that stuff out, at least for the moment. But
the only downside to that, which I figured out this week, is if you run those debloat programs, you can't join a domain.
Depends, you know.
My favorite debloat program for that would be Linux Mint Installer.
Yeah,
does a great job.
Okay.
What are the system requirements on Linux Mint? Because for Windows 11, it's like a TPM module and 8 gigs of RAM and a 500 gig SSD and a certain Intel processor. And I think the requirements for Linux is like electricity.
Yeah.
Yes, pretty much.
Does
I
the
installed
computer
it on a
exist?
14-year-old ThinkPad, and it's like, okay, sure.
I had a friend of the school just donate a bunch of computers from their business because they're not Windows 11 compatible. They're Core i7 like mobile workstations. They're, I think, 7th gen, so they're just below the threshold.
Yeah.
They don't have any ability to take SATA drives at all. They're all NVMe, which is really weird because I think like this is quite old, but it's really not that old. Yeah. I mean, like I thought these were going to be so old they would have SATA still, but they don't. Yeah. Anyway, Linux Mint runs great.
Yeah.
I bought a couple of NVMe drives, threw them in.
Nice.
Fine. The big thing about them is they're really thin laptops.
Business, and you use the online versions of the apps, and you don't even have to have anything.
Well, actually, you can run Office in Proton. Works fine. If you have to,
or you could use it in the web browser and have it not crash all the time. But
Yeah. I honestly it is nice. I would say Office stuff really great. Running Photoshop in a web browser, or at least the web browser version of Photoshop that exists, not so great.
No. But yeah, these the big thing about these laptops that I'm really excited about is, as I'm sure you're all aware, they have actual full-size Ethernet adapters, which are becoming more and more non-existent. And when you're a mobile tech, you don't really want to be dragging around a desktop computer to be able to check, And yes, I know you can get USB to Thunderbolt and USB-C to whatever, but it's just one more dongle you have to carry with you, and you always forget it. It's just nice to have it on board.
No.
And that's old man Ryan Ransford. We'll be right back. Music for Ron.
Yeah.
Anyway, I have some tech-related announcements.
Go for it. Go.
So, we all know about the Apple III, right? Do we know about the Apple III?
What's an Apple III?
I'm going to talk about the Apple III. So the Apple III was this cool successor to the Apple II. That's supposed to be the big, high-powered business line of the Apple II.
Oh, you mean the Macintosh?
No, the Apple III. Anyway, so, it was commercial failure. They only sold like 120,000 units, whatever. But here's the thing about the Apple III. It's freaking cool. It's insanely powerful, this machine. 16 color RGB graphics, 6-bit digital audio, 256 kilobytes of RAM, relocatable zero page. So you could have a preemptive multitasking operating system on it if you wanted to program it. Thanks to it, yeah, cool. Well, thanks to its massive heatsink case. Well, that is actually because of FCC regulations that they were trying to get ahead of the FCC regulations. And by time the design came out, Part 15 Part J came out that exempted computers. But anyway, blah, 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 yakety schmackety. Well, tonight at 10 p.m., if you can find it, I'll see if I can find the link here in a minute. Our wonderful folks down under, these guys, our wonderful friends down under, are going to have the Apple III Symposium in Sydney, Australia. And I'm going to be on a little group discussion about the Apple III this evening. So hopefully they're going to have that for replay later as well, after the fact on YouTube or something like that. But we're going to be talking about the Apple III, how it gets a bad rap, and why you should ignore everything you've heard about it, because it is reliable, it is awesome, and if you program it right, it can do some really cool things, like effectively sprite-based graphics manipulation. Cool stuff. So 10 o'clock
now, Joe,
tonight.
say I find an Apple III.
Yeah.
Say I find one in the wild, but the keyboard doesn't seem to be functioning.
Mm-hmm.
What could that be?
Well, like all Apple IIIs that are bad, it is not a design fault. It is the fact that it was designed like a wonderful little rodent house, and rodents lived in it before you found it. Guaranteed. Right. Which means corrosion, which means bad traces and stuff. Now you say keyboard, and I know what you're trying to get me to say. You're trying to get me to say that one could go to this website here and get a keyboard encoder to replace their faulty keyboard encoder. Right. Which, if it is a faulty keyboard encoder, you'll kind of have to go to my site, because I'm the only one who makes keyboard encoders that are compatible with the Apple III. So yeah, that's a thing.
Francois asks, how many Apple IIIs still exist besides the one you own? And
not enough. It sounds to me like somebody should design a real world hardware replacement for an Apple III that isn't an emulator.
And maybe a nice 3D printable case.
Like one of those ITX boards that's like an Apple III on an ITX board or something.
Mm-hmm.
That's neat.
Yeah, it'd be kind of cool. All right, Joe, get into the cloning machine.
I think with modern manufacturing techniques and a 4-layer board and surface mount components, one could probably redesign the Apple III to be about half the size it is, for a few $100s, and then people could buy an Apple III for a few $100s instead of having it a big rotten rat-infested nest.
True.
But I cannot confirm or deny any plans to do that.
But if someone wanted to, I guess, be aware of that if it did come out, is there a website they could go to possibly see that in the future, if such a thing came to existence?
I if something like that were to ever happen, some might be able to go to a certain website to see that. Right. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. I'd like to thank today's sponsor, jcm-1.com, fine purveyor of all things for your 8-bit and other.
If you want any part to fix your Apple III that isn't a single chip, any of the custom parts or custom ROMs in the Apple III, I'm your guy. Because I got them all.
You heard it here first.
He has them all, so that you don't have to have any.
Ooh,
he's got them all.
JC has an interesting question. I think that the Apple III was monochrome as well. No, it wasn't. Very interesting that you state this. So the primary output, the RCA output on the Apple III, technically is monochrome. They just didn't couple in the basically the what's called the color burst signal to tell the TV to show it in color. that was part of the marketing design, the marketing push to downrate the Apple II compatibility of the machine, which was intentional. They figured if they made it difficult for you to get color, the Apple II compatible like color video out of the machine, it would be less likely people would buy it for its Apple II mode, and that people would embrace the new Apple III mode and all of that stuff. And
it was because it was like, oh, you're going to have spreadsheets. Why do you need color? Yeah. It's business. It's a business.
You'll buy the RGB monitor instead and do the thing. Right. And in addition, if you weren't buying an RGB monitor for it, you were getting the Monitor 3, which was monochrome anyway. And if you don't couple the color burst signal onto that jack, it makes the signal a little bit cleaner. So there's lots of reasons. Yes.
Question: Can you currently do that though? Could you make the color burst signal? Like, is there something you can solder or do?
So the connector on the back of the Apple III has the full color burst enabled NTSC video on it. One of the pins, basically they split it off and they go two ways. One goes out to the black and white connector. The other goes into the color burst coupling connector that then goes out the back. So there's this little adapter called the Colorizer 3 that you can get from a certain website and plug it in, and it just plugs into the RGB connector, and it just has an RCA connector on it. You plug that into a color RCA, CVBS, whatever you want to call it, NTSC, whatever you want to call it, a color monitor, and you'll get color graphics.
Cool.
Now, granted, it's NTSC, so they're still freaking garbage.
Sure.
But it's color. The real way to get proper color out of the Apple III, though, is to have an RGB capable monitor. Now, the only RGB capable monitor that you could natively connect to the Apple III that you still even have any sort of ability to find would be the Apple Color. I think it's called the M100, which was the super high-end RGB monitor that was originally designed for the Apple II, and it's in the Video 7 RGB board. The video that comes out of the back of the Apple III is compatible with that, 100%. So you can just plug that in. However, because you don't do that, there's this board you can get. I'm trying to think where you can get it. I don't know where you can get it exactly, but you can get this board that does 3 video outputs for it. It will take the Apple III RGB and convert it to a CGA compatible color palette. Oh, cool. So you can plug it into any old CGA monitor. Now, won't it look exactly correct? But some doofus went through all of this extra work to map the CGA color palette as closely as you possibly could to the Apple III. So you can do that. It also converts it to 15 kilohertz analog video. And the connector on that is designed to plug directly into an Apple TGS analog monitor. So you could do that, or you can just make a little adapter cable and connect it to an Amiga monitor or Atari ST monitor. Exactly. It is 15.75 60 hertz. So with that little universal RGB adapter and a little cable adapter, you can plug it into literally any 15 kilohertz analog RGB monitor, and it'll just work. Yep, and same thing for instance.
Right. Yeah, I have a line of NEC monitors, flat panel monitors that support 15 kilohertz.
Now, see, there's this idea that's been floating around with the folks designing or planning to think about designing the Apple III rebuild project. Of incorporating that directly into that board. So you could just plug in analog video if you want,
Neat.
I don't know who at all might be thinking about that. But things. So
cool.
This episode sponsored by
well, you saw
so anyway,
you see on the bottom there. There's the tickers just kind of going around. Yeah,
so that's my big tech news.
Our channel sponsor.
Other than unless we want to talk about tariffs in the hobby.
Well,
You kind of beat
I have a topic to talk about too, but yes, let's segue to the next topic, which is how are the tariffs affecting you guys?
Not great.
No.
Yeah.
Not great.
So I know they lifted some, or they're allegedly over the next 90 days lifting some of the things, but it still appears there's like $100
de minimis,
like minimum amount that they're going to charge. Yeah,
$100 or as low as 30%, depending on what the item is.
right.
But the bottom line is this: two things. First thing is this: if there's uncertainty, people aren't going to do anything.
Right.
So they're not going to start moving stuff, especially people that are like, I'm already on a budget. This is just a hobby. This is just something fun I'm trying to do. So all the people that were ordering boards and stuff like that from JLC PCB and PCBWay and things like that, where you could get like, oh, I just prototyped 5 boards for $10 with shipping. I mean, those days are done. So it's now cost prohibitive to do that stuff, and there's nowhere to get that stuff done in the United States. You can say Osh Park, they might as well be on Mars, because number one, they're flooded, and number two, it's not a price you'll pay.
But I would also imagine their materials they're purchasing, they're getting them through China.
Yeah.
Right.
So
it's still
for
you're
components and stuff.
Right?
If you're having them assemble things, if you're going out to Mouse or you're going out to DigiKey, things like that, you can see all that stuff out there. So that's the thing. If you create uncertainty, people aren't going to do anything. So it doesn't matter if you reduced stuff. And the second part is, like we were saying, that it's that $100 minimum thing. You've now screwed it up where people are just, they can't afford it anymore.
Yeah.
So.
And I know, not to wear my tinfoil hat, but I've also yet to ever see a government remove a tax, especially if it makes them a fair bit of money. They might change it, they might amend it, they might.
I can't tell you that a single penny of what's being collected right now is actually ending up in American coffers.
It's not.
It is all just sitting in a bank somewhere because everybody is trying to figure out what to do with it. It's like anytime I order something from GLC PCB and they charge tax on it, who's getting that tax? I promise it's not Uncle Sam. I promise that somebody's just pocketing that money.
Yeah. So
it is the same thing with this. If you create uncertainty, people are not going to do things that have a potential, because it wouldn't do me any good to order $300 worth of PCBs and then turn around and it's like, oh, nope, sorry. This is the week that we decided because of the time frame. It's not like you place an order on Amazon and it ships to you. There's a delay. And so you place the order here and pay, and 2 weeks later when it's ready to ship and all the rules have changed, you can either kiss the money goodbye or you're over a barrel to pay a bunch of additional money. And nobody is doing that with the uncertainty in the market right now.
I watched a video with Louis Rossmann. I think it was maybe last week or the week before. And he was contacted by a guy who was basically had developed this thing, a widget, we'll call it, had done pre-orders for it at a set price.
Yeah.
And now is stuck. Basically, he's like, to save face, I have to pay the difference, and it's going to cost him like $20,000.
Yep.
Right.
There's people that have been working on projects for 6-8 months, have done Kickstarters, have done crowdfunding, have gotten all the money. They're still in the manufacturing process, and now with all of this, they're like, just hold it, just wait on it, and we'll see what happens. Because it's paid for, it's in China, it's in a warehouse, so now they're paying storage fees on the stuff, which is chipping away at their money. Which the bottom line is this: people will be like, well, they should just. They're making a bunch of money on it. No, people aren't really making a lot of money on it. A lot of these projects are just like, I'm making enough money this time to turn around and do the next thing.
Right.
I'm making enough money now to just keep everything afloat so that I've got time to work on the next thing.
I look at people like Joe, who himself is self-employed, who makes, a living doing this part-time.
Yeah.
But then he's also helping a bunch of people in our community also have some side hustles and some side jobs. All that, nobody thinks about that when they put these stupid rules in place, right? Like that just destroyed an entire microeconomy.
Yeah, it's people have said, and not just like our hobby, but tons of different hobbies. Like I guess model trains as a hobby is now done. It is everything came from China. Everything was like everything from track to trestle, like every little component, all the decorative stuff, all of the stuff that you need, and the adhesives and the tools and the styrofoam things and all. The entire hobby is done. And there are people that are, and not just that, but there's people in China that are sitting on warehouses full of stuff and they can't move the product.
Right.
There's people in the United States that are like, once I sell this, then that's it. And what comes next? And they've built their whole, this is like their income center for whatever it is, because they were a hobbyist that turned it into their 9 to 5. And those people are out, and it's shipping, and it's the transport, and it's UPS and FedEx and DHL.
Well,
and
I saw a video of Seattle Harbor, and like that place is usually on rails, no pun intended. But it was
it looks like the pandemic.
Yeah, it looks like everything. There's not a single container ship at the lift cranes. Right.
So why after, and you can just throw it out there, because there are people that have made these decisions and they do not deserve to have their names danced around.
No.
But
they're fucking idiots.
Well, the person that made the decision came out of, as chief executive, came through COVID and all of that, and saw what that did to the economy. I do not know why you would like do this a second time to yourself.
Yeah, it's like shooting yourself again in the foot.
Yeah, well, that
wound's healed. I should probably shoot it again.
The left knee healed. Time to shoot the right knee. So I'm not sure how you fix this, other than midterms are coming up here shortly, and the election cycle is going to start in the United States, and people are paying attention now. Maybe
the French always had a good idea.
Yeah, they did. They never took them down. They never
can have your cake.
They never took down the guillotines. It's just a reminder that
Also, I will point out, like I point out all the time, a Dutch community once ate their mayor because they were disenfranchised with him. So that's
now, to be fair, they elected a cow as a mayor, but
I'm sure it wasn't the mayor, it was the prime minister.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was in 16 something. Man, yeah, they ate their prime minister. So everything's on the table.
Yeah, even the prime minister,
or including the prime minister.
Yeah. So I'm not sure how you fix it, other than political pressure and stuff like that. More over than anything else. In the United States, the executive branch, the way that it works is that Congress holds the purse. They're the people that have the power to impose taxes, to collect money for the operation of the government. And then what happens is basically we have these programs and these things, and that's turned over to the executive branch, and the executive branch is supposed to actually like dispense that money. Yes. They execute how that money is not they have a little bit of deference on how that money is spent, but this is a big test in the United States right now to find out what exactly are the limits of the power of the executive branch. And you have somebody that's like, well, if I don't want to spend the money, do I have to spend the money at all? And it's so you can effectively defund things by just like holding the money and claiming that it's a surplus. And so that's what's being tested right now. The executive branch is ignoring the judicial branch. For people that do not live in the United States, it's the 3 branches of government where you have equal powers, and each is a check on the other. That appears to be falling apart right now. I know that this affects a lot of your economies too. Something very important to keep in mind: the United States is a very young nation. We're less than 250 years old, and we're coming up on it. Don't worry. Next year, 250 years. But the experiment is right now in very bad shape. So I'm not sure how you fix it, other than like a recentering on recognizing constitutional supremacy, which is what our entire nation was founded on, the idea that you don't have a parliamentary body or something like that, and people that are able to just kind of use like a common law to like, just make up things out of whole cloth. It's everything is precedent. So it's like, what does the book say? What does the book say? If you want to make laws, you want to change things, it has to go through the legislative branch. Executive branch doesn't make laws. Executive branch doesn't have the power to collect taxes. That is all the legislative branch of our government. And so the problem right now is we've got someone in power in the executive branch and somebody in power in the legislative branch that is afraid to do that, or to push back on that. But I think that voters and people calling your representation, and if you're displeased with this and other things that are happening, making your voice clear, call every day. It's free. Just be like I said, I made a video about it. Just be polite, but be firm, and get your point across. And don't be afraid to say, I'm going to call you every day until something changes.
Yeah.
And just put them on your call list. Just be like, they're like, hey, Sally, it's me again. Just calling to make sure. Just they have to write it down. They have to report it. They have to report that you called and said that you wanted them to do such and such. So call them every day.
Tie up the phone lines.
Remember, these unilateral tariffs are the equivalent to taxation without representation.
Yes.
Seems like
our
whole country was founded on that.
Yeah. Americans
we can fix this, people. We can.
Yes. It's so silly. It's Americans hate taxes, but they literally pay for everything. And then we set up against the advice of some of the founding fathers, set up a representative form, a representative democracy, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I don't know. It's
the technical term is a federal republic.
That's true. It's the federal supremacy over, and the other thing, people look at the United States and they're like, what's the deal? It's like, imagine it's a bunch of little tiny countries all squabbling and trying to do things, but they have open borders, and then they all have like one big club that everybody gets to have a little bit of say in, and then nobody likes the results.
Yeah, I try
grand
to
experiment.
To my students. They didn't realize that. I'm like, no, the states are individual little. It's united. Literally, it's in the name. United States. They are the united group of states.
Yes, the governors are the presidents of each state. And each state has
and then they have a grand president.
Yes, and each state has their own version. They have a Supreme Court. They have appellate courts. They have a Congress that is both a Senate and a House, and they have a judicial branch. It's the same thing, but just smaller.
Yeah.
So,
I feel for you guys. I was watching actually Bernie Sanders. I'm not a huge Bernie Sanders fan, but he was quite elegant on the Tonight Show or the Late Show the other night with eloquent speaking with Stephen Colbert. It was quite a good interview. So good, in fact, they only had one guest, and it was him. So you got to do like 3 little segments, which was kind of nice.
Just let him run. Just let him talk.
Yeah. So. Well, the first segment was all Bernie. Like the audience erupted in chants of Bernie, and that lasted for about 3 minutes.
It's like,
and then Colbert is like, "Come on, guys, I'm getting jealous."
Yeah, we're at the first commercial break.
That's a commercial break. So yeah, shifting gears a little bit, I wanted to talk about for those in our community know that we have experienced in our little community some skullduggery over the years. I know that we've talked about this to probably length. We won't get into too many details, but there have been scammers and people in our community who have ripped other people off. And this past week, if you're not aware of it, there was a similar type scenario happening in the console, like the video game console repair community. They had an Australian company by the name of BWE, Better Way Electronics, and the owner of this particular company was a bit of a chud. We call him a chud. Is that a good term to describe him?
Yeah.
And basically would provide a software for not a small amount of money that would allow you to read error codes on motherboards for PlayStation 4s and PlayStation 5s. And the software itself was actually built-in spyware, and he was spying on the the computers of the people using it. And if he saw competing software, or if he saw you were doing something he didn't like, he would just ban your serial number and not offer you a refund. So apparently this has been going on for a few years. Lewis Rossman did a great video explaining it. He actually called him out about a year ago. It said basically get your stuff in order, figure this out, do right by your customers.
Yeah.
If you're taking them, if you're saying they're violating some sort of agreement, please, just give them a refund, obviously, or explain to them why they've been banned, because a lot of times there was no explanation of the banning. And they go into great detail about this, but as it turns out, the guy obviously wanted to double down, and he tripled down, and he got a bunch of Lewis's videos taken down, or at least had a privacy strike against them, which is a whole thing in YouTube that requires you to prove that there was no privacy violation, and it's a lot of back and forth. Anyway, long story short, the guy kicked the hornet's nest. The BWE guy kicked the hornet's nest a little too hard, and the people revolted and figured out who this guy was, and did some very decent investigation, I will say, and found out that previously he had been charged with some heinous crimes towards minors, which allowed him to, he also used his skills as a hacker to take over their computers and to blackmail them. He also then was sentenced to 13 years in prison, which he only served apparently 3 years in total. And as it turns out, this guy works for a university in Brisbane in Australia, in a cybersecurity department that teaches cybersecurity, where he is currently finishing or fulfilling his PhD in cybersecurity. So it was a pretty wild ride. I recommend everybody watch the video, because it is. And if you don't like Lewis, like I know a few people in our community find him, very grating and don't particularly like him. I will say that this last video on this is not a typical Lewis video where he kind of rants and raves and yells. It's very focused and very level-headed in what he presents, which is kind of different for him, because he's usually not like that. So yeah, it's a very interesting video, and very sad that this type of stuff still happens in the world, and that people that do terrible things end up not serving time. Like it blows my mind that somebody who was charged with something like that is able to then work at a university teaching and getting their PhD in cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Like you look at Kevin Mitnick, for example. I mean, he wasn't allowed to touch a computer for what, 10 years?
Yeah.
After he got out?
Yeah.
It just boggles my mind. Anyway, really interesting story. Really, it's amazing how these people, and I said this to Ron before, this character, this evil person, this BWE guy, he has very similar character traits to some people that we've had in our community, and it's interesting to see some of the comparisons and the similar methodologies that occur in this. It seems, like, I don't know if scammers make it's easier, or it's to be these sort of narcissistic type people in our community to be sort of, I don't know, they find themselves like kind of like a tick. They kind of like root themselves in. They find a niche and kind of exploit it. I feel like that seems to be the case here. And I don't know. I'm just spitballing, but yeah, it was interesting to see some of the connections. Anyway,
yes.
So,
how upbeat?
Well, it's you gotta be cautious of what you do, and lots of people are out there trying to screw people. It's just the nature of the world. And I think it's become more and more acceptable in the current environment. I feel like people are more brazen because they've been, I guess, emboldened by certain things that are occurring in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's as Ron always says, just be nice. If you can't be
try
anything,
to be.
just be nice.
Try your best. Yeah.
Right. Anyway, so any other things? Any gets for this week? Did anybody get anything good? Oh, Joe's got a box. Sockets.
Yes.
Now is the time on Sockets Web Dance.
More 16-pin sockets. That's it.
Nice.
JC says he did some research, and the Apple III was the beast of 1983 or 1980, most powerful machine of the year.
I am telling you what, there was nothing like it in that form factor in 1980.
Yeah.
16 colors. Colors available in both foreground and background for all text. A fully smooth scrolling line by line vertical scrolling mode for graphics. 6-bit digital audio, so you could have actual audio samples that were played via DMA. So they could play in the background while the machine was running. It wouldn't slow the machine down. Good stuff. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
256K of RAM, relocatable 0 page, so you could have multitasking and full DMA, 256 byte block, full DMA. Interrupt controllers, so you could do proper video without screen tearing and stuff like you see when an Apple II draws stuff. It draws and draws, and you can see it draw. The Apple III didn't have that problem because you could just time everything by the video interrupt and just things. Yeah, good stuff.
And Joe, how much was the Apple III when it came out? What was the price point?
$4,300 for the minimum and about $7,800 for the maximum.
Ouch.
And what does that relate to today in our dollars?
At the high end, about $26,000. It's like a Honda Civic. Mm-hmm. Yep. And see, that's part of the thing is that Apple kind of priced it to be professional. They're like, this is the value. They priced it for what they perceived the value of the machine was, but they didn't realize the perceived value of the Apple II, which at its high end was like $2,400, right? If they had started the Apple III at $2,500 instead of $4,300, they would have sold a lot more. And looking at the machine and what was involved in it, they had plenty of flipping margin in that machine. Mm-hmm. They could have done it if they had, set it up to sell more. So
right. And do you think it was? And again, we talked about this before. Do you think it was just the right product at the wrong time, or the?
I think that Wendell Sanders, the designer of the Apple III, said it best that nobody, and you can see this in the sales of personal computers amongst the target business group. Nobody was buying PCs or small computers for business use until IBM released the PC. Because if it was business, if it wasn't IBM or like DEC or Data General,
nobody ever got fired for buying an IBM.
That may or may not be a lyric in a song I wrote. So yeah, so a lot of people were just like, that's great, Apple, but it's expensive, and I'm not going to risk that money on a machine that doesn't have 3 special letters on it.
Right.
So.
And they had to wait another, 3 years?
That year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Which is, speaking of the IBM thing, that's IBM with their Think. Like, they give all their little salespeople and stuff like that little notepads that had Think on it. Where it's just, that's the ThinkPad. And that's where Apple with the Think Different and all of that. So there's kind of that famous picture of, Steve Jobs, next to a cubicle, and there's a big sign that says Think, and it's in color and all that type of stuff. It's, break out of that mindset.
Right.
And so saw a lot of the failings with the Apple III, and that's where, it's like, we're going to have to do something else. It's going to have to be next level. But I did not know a lot about the Apple III until a couple of years ago when went to K-Fest and watched all the different talks, and Joe was there and showing things off, and I was like, wow, this is actually like a really cool machine.
Questions on, and it's
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
This talk right here with Wendell Sander. Yeah, great talk. Yeah.
Yes.
JC says the Apple III was competing against a $300 VIC 20. No.
No, the
different
Apple
demographics completely.
Yeah, the Apple III was competing against
the Apple II
itself.
Maybe
it was competing against the phantom of a concept.
Right.
It was competing against IBM, even though IBM didn't have a product.
Right.
Right. And it was also competing. The Apple III was really competing against the Apple II. When the Apple II did everything that the Apple III could do, but it cost half as much money for a fully decked out Apple II with a monitor, with a disk drive, with a disk card, with all of the RAM stacked in it. Why would you buy the Apple III?
Yeah.
There was no reason to buy the Apple III. And it was price and perception. Now, there was also this perception that the Apple III was unreliable. Only the first small subset had reliability issues, and that had to do with these memory connectors right here. These right here. Gravity. These memory connectors right here.
Yeah.
And no, it was not heat. It was not chips popping out of sockets. It was nothing like that. It was these memory connectors. And that plagued them for the first couple months until they recalled all 14,000 they sold and redesigned it around the newer connector. And once they did that, solved the problem. But that didn't help, because now you have an entire market that doesn't want to buy a business machine that doesn't say IBM on it. That's literally what it was.
Yeah.
It wasn't just Apple III's business machines that weren't selling. The PETs weren't selling. The Model 2s and the Model 4Ps and stuff from Tandy weren't selling. It was just the way it was.
And Curtis says the TSR Model 80, Model 2, sorry. I mean, I have somewhere, and I thought I had it out here. I think it's in the house. I have a Radio Shack Flyer from 1980, and like a fully decked out, I guess it was a Model 2, was like 10 grand.
Yeah.
Right. So because the price wasn't even really that.
Yeah. They're like, businesses are paying a lot of money for computers. Let's charge a lot of money for the computer. That was the whole mindset.
I like how Joe, like, for just a brief second, had a cigar in his hand.
Yeah, he was like,
that's
the silliest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And that's what it was. That was the same thing that plagued the Lisa. The Lisa was like this $13,000 computer. Why? It was charged. They charged so much money for it because they thought they had to in order for it to seem like it was important. Then IBM comes out with the 5150. Which is basically about as powerful as an Apple III. But what was it, like $2,000?
Yep.
I think part of it too, though, it's when you have these firsts on things, it's typically there's the old thing. It's pioneers get the arrows, settlers get the land.
Right.
And so you have these big things that come out with like a huge amount of development, R&D costs, promotion, just getting people used to the idea of this thing existing. And it's tough to do that. And then that first thing you're pushing out the door, and you have to also keep in mind that it's all patented. Every little thing about it is patented in hopes that other people are going to follow behind you and say, oh yeah, we can, it's just be simpler for us to license something from you, an idea, or license the actual thing from you than for us to like bring it up from whole cloth. And so, so it just licenses this little thing about what you do, and then you guys make money off that forever. So, but no Lisa, you've got no Macintosh, and you got no Macintosh, you've got no Apple. So, I mean, because there was a finite amount of time that you were going to be able to sell Apple IIes to grade school.
No Apple III?
Yeah.
No Lisa file system, hierarchical file system, because the first hierarchical file system, SOS for the Apple III.
No Apple III, no profile, no
Lisa,
no hard disk storage for Lisa.
Yeah.
You'd had to spin something up for millions of dollars in development costs,
and then ultimately no Wang Chung.
That's true.
Do you have that there by any chance? Because that was pretty funny today.
Oh, that picture that I made?
The picture, yeah.
Oh, I don't have it, but yeah, it's funny.
Oh, you just found it? Okay.
Yeah, no, it was on Facebook Marketplace. Like somebody had a thing where it was like a oh, come on, brain. It's
no Apple, no bananas.
It was a SCSI hard drive inside like an enclosure, wasn't it?
In an enclosure, but the power supply is from a company. It's CHYANG Fun. So it's like Chang Fun. It's like everybody Chang Fun tonight.
Well, folks, I hate to cut myself off early, but I've been invited to go hop on the other thing and do planning and testing and all of that stuff. So I'm gonna go jump on over there. It doesn't look like
we're about an hour. We're about an hour.
Yeah.
Do we want to?
So
yeah, we can shut this down now.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Bye. Click.
No.
Well, thank you everybody for joining us this evening. We know you have your choice of Friday evening entertainment.
You do.
ABC's got some wonderful things there on their what was the thing
Friday
called?
night schedule.
Yeah. TGIF. Thank you. Yeah. So, Ron, any pearls of wisdom?
No, just be a nicer person than I am. So that's it.
All right. On that bombshell, good night.